You are 19 years old when the war stops being something spoken about in the village square and becomes something that takes you by name. Until then, your life on the Volga is ordinary in the small ways that matter. You wake before dawn to help your father build fishing boats on the riverbank. Your hands smell of pitch and sawdust before breakfast. Your mother, Yelena, complains that you track shavings across her kitchen floor. Your younger sister, Nastia, follows you down to the water most mornings, asking why the current pulls harder in some places than others. You pretend she annoys you. She knows she does not. Around your neck hangs a whistle, carved from birchwood, shaped like a small bird your father made it when you were 6, so he could call you home from the river without shouting. You do not need it anymore. You wear it anyway. Your father, Piotr, does not talk about the last war, the one against the Germans in 1914, except to say that men who promise a short war have usually never fought in a long one. When officials come through the village collecting names for the reserve rolls, he watches from the doorway without offering his own son's name early, though it will not matter the order arrives regardless, carried by a man on a bicycle, and after that everything happens quickly. You are conscripted at 19. Your mother packs bread into a cloth and refuses to look at you while she does it, because if she looks at you, she will cry, and she has decided not to cry until the train is out of sight. Your father gives you no object, no photograph, no medal, only a sentence, delivered flatly at the door: stay with men who have already survived something, and do whatever they tell you to do without asking why, because by the time you understand the reason, it will usually be too late to matter. On the truck east past Kalak, you sit across from a man with a scar above one eyebrow and the unhurried manner of someone who has already been shot at and lived. His name is Grigory Ivanovich Belov, 34 years old, a sergeant who fought the Finns 2 winters earlier in forests so cold that rifles froze shut. He looks at your weapon, still bright with factory oil, and tells you to stay close to him, not because he is brave, he says, but because he is still alive. And those are not the same quality in a man, whatever the posters back home suggest. You smell Stalingrad before the truck reaches it. Burning oil, burning wood, and beneath that something you decide not to name yet. The city arrives in fragments, a factory chimney standing with nothing left around it, a tram cable hanging over an empty street like a broken clothesline, a woman sitting motionless on a heap of brick that used to be a building, a child in her arms. Word moves through the column that the Germans have already reached the Volga in places, which means the river you are about to cross your only way in. And if it comes to it, your only way out already sits under German guns along parts of its length. You cross at night in an overloaded boat packed shoulder to shoulder with men who do not speak, while shells throw columns of water into the air, lit orange by a burning refinery on the far bank. Nobody screams. Screaming wastes breath you may need for swimming. The building your platoon is ordered to hold used to be an apartment block near the grain elevator, close enough to the Volga that you can still hear it at night under the gunfire. A child's drawing is still pinned to a second-floor wall, a house with a yellow sun over it, undisturbed by the shell hole 3 feet away. Grigory explains the rules of this kind of fighting on your first night inside it. Rules that bear no resemblance to anything you were taught in training. The floor above you might already be German. The floor below might already be German. And a straight hallway will kill you faster than open ground ever could. He tells you that the war does not care whether you are brave. It only cares whether you are fast enough or lucky enough, or both, and that you would do well to learn early which one you are because you will not get to choose later. During one of the quiet stretches, and there are quiet stretches, hours of waiting that outnumber, the minutes of violence by a wide margin, Grigory notices the whistle around your neck and asks what it is for. You tell him. He asks to borrow it for luck, promising to give it back, and tucks it under his collar before you can decide whether the request feels strange. It does, slightly. It also feels right, the way lending something does when you have already decided to trust the person asking. A soldier named Yuri, who told jokes badly and often enough that nobody minded, is alive and laughing 1 hour and gone the next. Taken by a dive bomber that comes in low enough for you to see the pilot's canopy glint before the whistle of the falling bomb erases every other sound. You notice weeks into the fighting that you no longer flinch at the sight of the dead, and you mention this to Grigory as though reporting a fact about the weather. He tells you that is the part that should frighten you, not the bodies, but that you have stopped noticing them. You learn before Stalingrad forces you to learn it the hard way yourself, that Grigory is capable of a kind of arithmetic you have not yet had to perform. During a retreat from a position that cannot be held, a soldier named Panov takes shrapnel through the leg and cannot walk, and carrying him would mean 3 men crossing open ground at a crawl, under fire instead of 2 men moving fast. Grigori orders you to leave him. He does not soften the order. And Panov does not beg. And you obey because Grigori has been right about everything up to this point, though you tell yourself, without much conviction, that you will never be the one who has to give that order yourself. Winter arrives inside your coat before it arrives outside it. Food comes late when it comes at all. Rumors move through the ruins faster than any order does. The Germans are freezing in their forward positions. Reinforcements are coming. No reinforcements are coming. You will hold this building until spring, if spring finds anyone left standing to see it. Then, on a gray morning, the artillery changes. It is not aimed at you. It rolls in from somewhere far to the west, hour after hour, like the ground clearing its throat. And a runner arrives breathless with word that Soviet forces are attacking the German flanks, where the lines are thinnest, though nobody in your building has the full picture, and nobody will for days. You only know that the earth has stopped shaking the way it used to. Grigori says maybe, which is the first hopeful word you have heard him use since the truck passed Kalak. The Germans push harder before they break. A grenade takes the stairwell, landing apart, and through the gap you can hear German voices one floor down, close enough to make out separate words, not close enough to understand them. Grigori is still below. He went down 20 minutes earlier to help pull back a wounded man, and has not come up since. The lieutenant's order arrives flat and immediate. Bring down what remains of the stairs, seal the gap, because it is the only way to keep the position from collapsing entirely, and you are the man closest to the charge. You tell him Belov is still down there. He tells you he knows exactly whose name that is, and to do it now, because the alternative is losing the whole floor, and every man still holding it. You can hear someone moving under the gunfire. 2 levels down, there is no time to go and find out if it is him. There is only time to follow the order or not follow it, and for the first time since the truck east, the choice belongs entirely to you. Your hand finds the fuse before you have finished deciding to let it. You pull it, and the floor comes down in a sound you feel in your teeth, and the gap the Germans were climbing through is gone along with the stairwell that led to it. You do not know, in that moment, what has happened to Grigori, neither does anyone else. The lieutenant tells you the position held because of what you did. You do not feel walking away from the wreckage, like a man who has held anything. The counterattack from the west keeps closing over the following weeks, folding inward the way a hand closes, until you hear the word encircled and understand for the first time that the army trying to kill you for months now has nowhere left to retreat to. The fighting does not end all at once. It thins, the way a fire thins, into smoke, until German soldiers begin coming out of basements with their hands raised, wrapped in newspaper against the cold faces emptied of everything. You walk back through the ruined apartment block once it is safe to, telling yourself you are not looking for anything in particular. And in the basement, under broken beams and frozen dust, you find a birchwood whistle shaped like a small bird, the cord still knotted the way you tied it. You do not remember picking it up. You remember standing there a long time before your legs agree to leave. Home, when you finally reach it, is quieter than you remember, though nothing about it has changed. Nasia has grown taller. Your mother touches your face as though checking that it is real. Your father asks nothing, and seems to already understand why he shouldn't. That evening, by the river, your sister notices the cord around your neck and asks whose whistle it is now. You do not answer right away. You turn it over in your hands, the way Grigori once did, the way you did as a boy, calling nothing home anymore, and you understand holding it, that surviving Stalingrad and leaving it behind are not the same thing, and that you are only just beginning to learn the difference.